Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into what is honestly a fascinating biological detective story. We're talking about weight, metabolism, and the human body. For the longest time, we've looked at body weight through a really narrow lens. But modern science, well, it's completely revolutionized our understanding. So we're going way beyond the basics today to uncover how our genetic blueprints and our environment interact in ways that are, quite frankly, mind-blowing. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's start with a mystery that directly challenges a deeply ingrained societal myth. You know the one. We hear it all the time, right? That weight is simply a matter of willpower or just a simple equation of calories in versus calories out. But think about it. If that were entirely true, the math would look exactly the same for everyone. So we have to ask the fundamental question here. Why do some people become obese while others simply don't? To really visualize this, I want you to picture two friends. Friend A weighs, let's say, 60 kilograms, and friend B weighs 110 kilograms. Now, here's the catch. They share the exact same lifestyle. They eat similar foods, they sit at the exact same type of desk for their office jobs, and neither of them really exercises regularly. Yet their body masses are vastly different. How on earth is this biologically possible? If it really just secret snacking, or, is there a much deeper mechanism at play here? To really grasp the sheer scale of this mystery, consider this number, 1 billion. Today, there are literally over 1 billion people worldwide living with obesity. It's become one of the greatest public health challenges on the globe, significantly bumping up the risks for type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and a whole lot more. Listen, when a condition affects over 1 billion people across incredibly diverse cultures and lifestyles, science tells us for sure that there's a much deeper biological story going on than just a generalized lack of self-control. And that brilliantly illustrates our first major clue. When researchers study identical twins who were raised in completely different households, they often find remarkably similar body mass indexes. Actually, the heritability for weight is estimated to be somewhere between 40 to 70%. That means your genes explain a massive proportion of your body weight variation. But, as the famous saying goes, genes load the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. Your genes might set the stage, but how you live definitely dictates the final outcome. So let's break down that genetic blueprint a bit further. We can actually divide genetic obesity into two main categories. First, we have monogenic obesity. Now, this is pretty rare. It's driven by a mutation in just a single gene, and it usually causes severe, insatiable hunger, starting way back in childhood. On the flip side, we have polygenic obesity. This one is way more common. It's a scenario where hundreds or even thousands of tiny genetic variants combine to increase a person's overall susceptibility to gaining weight. It's like a giant puzzle where all these little pieces add up. But what's really fascinating here is how our bodies actually communicate about energy. We usually just think of fat as storage, right? Like a biological savings account. But it actually acts as an active endocrine organ. It uses what's called the leptin pathway. Here's how it works. Step 1, your fat cells produce a hormone called leptin. Step 2, that leptin travels straight up to the hypothalamus in your brain. Step 3, it delivers a very clear message. Hey, I have enough energy, we can stop eating now. But if this pathway fails, which is step 4, the brain literally thinks the body is starving. That leads to constant hunger and rapid weight gain. We see this vividly when these biological pathways mutate. Take the MC4R gene pathway, for example. When this specific pathway mutates, it actually accounts for about 2 to 5% of severe childhood obesity. These patients feel completely starved all the time. They eat large meals and they gain weight rapidly. This is absolutely crucial to understand because it proves that severe constant hunger is frequently a very real biological dysfunction, an actual error in chemical signaling, rather than just some behavioral flaw. So, the crucial takeaway here is that while genes exert immense power, they aren't an absolute life sentence. Take the FTO gene. It's probably the most notorious obesity gene out there. People carrying the risk alleles for FTO tend to eat larger portions, they crave energy-dense foods, and they just feel less full. But here's the incredible part, and this reveals the first of 5 key strategies we can apply right now. Targeted exercise. Studies clearly show that physical activity can actively and significantly reduce the obesity risk associated with a specific gene. You can literally outmove some of your genetic predispositions. How cool is that? And that brings us to our second big clue, which is honestly the real twist in our biological detective story, epigenetics. Epigenetics literally translates to above genetics. It refers to how your behaviors and your environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Now, unlike genetic mutations, epigenetic changes are completely reversible, and they do not change your underlying DNA sequence, but they absolutely change how your body reads that sequence. It is truly awe-inspiring when you stop and think about it. To make this crystal clear, I want you to imagine your DNA is a thick, printed book. The genes, they're the printed words on the page. They are permanent. They never change. Epigenetics, however, is the active editor reading that book. The editor decides which pages are actually read aloud and acted upon, and which pages remain permanently glued shut. So let's dive into how this editor actually works down at the cellular level. There are three main mechanisms acting as biochemical locks and switches here. First, we have DNA methylation. Think of this like a physical padlock placed on a gene, often suppressing it. If your metabolic genes get abnormally locked, well, your appetite and insulin sensitivity go completely haywire. Second is histone modification, which physically spools or unspools your DNA, opening or closing it for reading. And third, microRNAs. These are tiny molecules that can regulate hundreds of genes simultaneously, heavily influencing things like fat metabolism and inflammation. So, you're probably wondering, what actually triggers these epigenetic switches to flip? Well, the answer is almost everything in our environment. And this reveals two more crucial strategies we can use to our advantage: personalized nutrition and managing environmental stressors. Literally everything from the specific diet you eat, your smoking habits, your exposure to pollution, all the way to how much stress you endure and the quality of your sleep, it all acts as an accomplice to your biology. By actively managing your sleep and reducing stress, you can actually keep your metabolic genes firing optimally. And the impact of these environmental triggers? It starts building incredibly early, actually even before we are born. This is known as fetal programming, or the developmental origins of health and disease. Get this, a mother's nutrition and environment during pregnancy permanently alter her child's epigenetic profile. Poor maternal nutrition can literally program a child's metabolic editor to make them more susceptible to obesity, diabetes, and hypertension for their entire life. It's a profound reminder of how deeply connected we are to our early environments. Moving beyond our own human cells, we also have to talk about our microscopic passengers, the gut microbiome. Your intestines contain trillions, yes, trillions with a T, of bacteria that are so active they behave almost like another endocrine organ. They regulate inflammation, they influence your appetite, and they can even be more or less efficient at extracting calories from the exact same plate of food. This brings us to strategy number 4 for metabolic health: cultivating the gut microbiome. By eating a diverse, fiber-rich diet, you ensure these tiny regulators are working for your metabolism and not against it. Which leads us to the ultimate resolution of our mystery, and honestly, our fifth and most powerful strategy moving forward: leveraging precision medicine. The future of healthcare is moving rapidly away from a simplistic one-diet-fits-all approach. Thank goodness, right? Instead, by combining genetic screening, epigenetic biomarkers, microbiome data, and AI, clinicians can now develop highly personalized therapies. This means targeted exercises, precise nutritional plans, and specific medical interventions based entirely on your unique individual biology. It's an absolute game changer. We have definitely covered a lot of ground today, unraveling this huge, complex web of DNA, leptin pathways, epigenetic editors, and gut microbiomes. But if there is one single thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this: your DNA is not your destiny. The ink on your genetic blueprint might be dry, but that epigenetic editor, it is always working. Knowing that you can actively influence that editor through exercise, stress management, personalized nutrition, and microbiome care, how will you write your next chapter?